First of all, candidates, thank you. Thank you for being out there. Thank you for having the conversations. I know it's a lot of work, and we appreciate you. So let's give our candidates a round of applause. Woohoo. So I've got just a few housekeeping notes for you. Please turn off your electronic devices. Don't be playing Candy Crush or something while you're going. The forum is being recorded to be shown on Channel 10, and we'll be putting it on YouTube for the Anacortes Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel. I think I'm saying that right. Unless you are the press, please refrain from taking pictures during the forum, as it is a distraction to the candidates. The candidates will be seated next to their opponents in each race jurisdiction. The audience is encouraged to write their questions on the forms provided by the Anacortes Chamber of Commerce in the back. You can see Dan holding some up there. We also have some question vetters. So we had a committee who's been working pretty much since the primary on questions for the candidates. So we have some seed questions that are ready. But if you have one that you think is you want to be heard, fill it out in the back and take it to the two people in the back table, and they will vet it to see if it's better than one that we have. Questions will also be, please write legibly. Questions will also be asked on a rotating basis. So I have some special thanks. Miss Amanda Hubick is the legislative aide to Jeff Morris, and she's one of our moderators. Andrew Miller, thank you. Yep. Andrew Miller is the CEO of Spinach Bus Ventures, and they are really one property at a time, capturing Skagit County back and keeping our heritage going. We appreciate that. We have question review. Thank you, Alan. Our question reviewers are Pam Allen and Alan Workman. So wave, you guys. Wave. Thank you. Dan Mall will be running the questions, and he's really going to just trot right up here with the questions, so if you have any. And then our timers today are staff members that are co-workers with Sandy Swartos and Christy Lemon. So I'm going to call up the, and reminder, the ballots will be mailed tomorrow is what I saw on the website, so there we go. I'm going to call up the candidates for Senate, and they're going to come sit and get started.
I have 2 minutes, correct? 1 minute, all right. Hi, I'm Liz Lovett. I currently serve in the legislature as your senator for the 40th District, where I was appointed in February. At this very dais where I had just received my 5-year Pride in Service Award for being a council member here in Anacortes for those years. In my time here, I worked on affordable housing, on energy safety, on water management, and in my time in the Senate, I've worked on issues around orca recovery. Electrification of our ferries will be something I'll be working on in the future. And I currently serve on the Transportation Committee. I'm a member of the Ferry Caucus. I'm on local government, and I was just recently promoted to be the Vice Chair of Energy, Environment and Technology Committee. So looking forward to solving a lot of our climate issues, working on public transportation, working on creating the highest quality of life possible for people and for our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Daniel Miller, and I'm running for Senate in the special election here in the 40th District. I want to work to keep the 40th District a great place to work, live, and play. I have worked on public policy first of all, I was going to say, I feel like this is the evening at the Apollo. Back there, it's really good. So I've worked on public policy in Washington State and California. I attended the University of Washington in Washington State and Evergreen State College. I've worked on community dinners, community theater, and raising money for cancer. I look forward to your questions. Please ask some really fun questions tonight. Without further ado, thanks for coming.
Good? All right. First question, we'll start with Liz. Regarding Washington state healthcare options, will you support private market insurance plans that strengthen our state healthcare system, particularly for small businesses in rural areas? Follow up, if not, how would you propose to make quality healthcare more affordable, accessible, and reliable?
One of the bills that I was proud to support this last session is called Cascade Care. That's where we tried to create missing middle health care for people that don't qualify for Medicaid and also don't have the opportunity to participate in the private sector. I was recently meeting with the Medical Association to talk about pathways towards finding more universal healthcare options. I believe that healthcare is a fundamental human right. One of the issues that we talked about was around the way that the benefit managers stand in between people's ability to get health care. So I think we need to have some reform around that. But when it comes to health care, I think that we need to have ways for people to participate in that. We don't want people losing their homes because they have had a medical problem, and that's one of the highest ranking ways that people end up finding themselves in bankruptcy. We continue to exacerbate that when we have people that are living in poverty and really need access to that health care. So I think that we need to figure out ways to regulate the private insurance market to be able to provide more opportunities and provide more public options for people.
Great, thank you. Daniel.
So now this is a very important question, so if you could repeat that.
You bet. Regarding Washington state healthcare options, will you support private market insurance plans that strengthen our state healthcare system, particularly for small businesses and rural areas? If not, how would you propose to make quality healthcare more affordable, accessible, and reliable?
Yes, I would support strengthening private market healthcare, and also government does have a part to play in healthcare as well. I actually have been involved in healthcare somewhat. I've done caregiving for a while, and my aunt was a registered head nurse, and she lives over in Idaho. So if I have any important healthcare questions, I can ask her. Also, my government malpractice, as in medical malpractice, is something important that we should look at. My grandmother up in Everett Hospital actually was killed up there in Everett Hospital with medical malpractice. And what we need to do is, there's Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, there's an uptick of that, and I want to have some really good hearings on Alzheimer's and medical malpractice. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll start this question back with Daniel. Adult and senior care needs are reaching critical numbers. There are not enough state-run facilities adequately covered by Medicaid and Medicare, and privately run facilities can refuse Medicaid, Medicare patients. What solutions do you support for seniors?
Okay. Now this sounds really bad. If you could just repeat that one more time.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Adult and senior care needs are reaching critical numbers. There are not enough state-run facilities adequately covered by Medicaid and Medicare, and privately run facilities can refuse Medicaid and Medicare patients. What solutions do you support for seniors?
Well, I want to work on senior issues and elderly issues, and have hearings, of course, about that in Olympia. But, we need to work on keeping seniors at home, and then, of course, nursing homes at last resort. Up there in San Juan Island, they had a really fantastic nursing home, and because of greed and mismanagement, it closed down, and now the patients are dispersed, and it's harder to visit them if you had a loved one in the nursing home. So I want to work with the state senators and legislators on coming up with valid solutions for this. Now, as far as Medicare, that's really tricky. I'd like to talk about that later. I don't have enough time. So please ask another question about that. Thank you.
Well, there's a lot of issues to broach here. One, we know that the federal Medicaid reimbursements are not adequate to suffice the rates that people are charging for ambulances, for nursing homes, for in care. Additionally, we at the legislature this last year passed the Long-Term Trust Act, which had to do with making sure that it's a payroll benefit that allows people to have investments into long-term care if they have like needs within the home, in the home care setting. So that's one way that we're trying to deal with that. Additionally, what I've heard back from the groups, the senior groups, is that they haven't had a cost of living adjustment in their pensions and retirement accounts for quite some time. So when you're talking to a school teacher that's still trying to live on a 1980s pension that hasn't been adjusted for inflation, it's pushing seniors particularly hard into areas where they're lapsing closer and closer into poverty. Additionally, I think we need to look at exploring expansion of housing programs, such as like we have Harbor House here in Anacortes, and similarly themed programs to make sure that seniors aren't priced out of their homes.
Great. Okay, I'll start with Liz on this one as well. How do you stand on behavioral and health care policy and funding to address the state's behavioral health system, including expanding mental health care for treatment options and additional housing support?
So this is always, the challenge with all of these services is how are you going to pay for it over time? Because our tax system is based on sales tax, which is not only regressive to lower income people, but also is a fair weather friend in times of recession, we need to work on overhauling our entire tax code as a method of being able to pay for these things long term. We have an education system that's roughly 50% of our budget. We have investments that we make in public safety, and I think that that really speaks to a lot of the issues that we have around housing, mental health, behavioral health. There's been an effort to expand those programs, especially in this last session, to help augment the services that are already available in some of our major metropolitan areas. But I want to continue to work towards permanent supportive housing that is low barrier to make sure that people who are suffering from mental and behavioral health problems have access to dignified living.
So, we need to have, of course, adequate care for mental health and behavioral problems. Perhaps we could take some money from government investments to help pay for that. I will address government investments a little later in the day. I've heard of, like, there's an example. So, first of all, I should eat dinner before I come to these, not just coffee. But anyways, my hairdresser had an experience where her grandson was on the streets for 2 years, and finally the daughter and the hairdresser had heard from him while I was in the chair, and they were not knowing what to do with the grandson. Like on San Juan Island, there aren't really any mental health facilities or treatment facilities, and unless you want to, go broke. So treatment facilities are really important, and I know how to pay for them. Government investments. Thank you.
All right, Daniel. Washington State General Fund relies on 3 major categories of tax revenue: sales tax, property tax, and B&O tax. Do you think our tax structure needs fundamental reform, and if so, should that reform include new taxes like capital gains or income tax?
Okay, so I'll make some people happy tonight and some people sad. I don't support a state income tax, and I don't support a capital gains tax. Actually, I don't want any taxes next year. As a matter of fact, I want to return some of the money to the citizens of Washington State in a tax rebate. There is so much money hidden in government investments. For example, $650 million offshored to Tokyo real estate. That's amazing. Maybe we could use some of that money brought back home. So I don't want any new taxes. I want to work on the budget and look for ways to cut the budget if necessary or bump up the budget, but responsibly. Thank you.
What I have heard loud and clear from voters is that they want tax reform. And having been a small business owner myself, I can really fully appreciate the pressures that we put particularly on B&O for our small business owners. So I would love to look at ways that we could streamline that process. I think one of the challenges that we have is to not just keep piling up more and more different kinds of taxes to be able to balance our expenditures, but instead really fundamentally look at what can be removed, what can be changed, and what structure needs to be added. I absolutely support an income tax. We are one of 6 states in the entire U.S. that doesn't have one. I absolutely support capital gains tax, and I don't need to equivocate on that.
Great. All right. Liz, How do you feel about new laws that ban certain products to force compliance for zero carbon or reduction of greenhouse gas emissions? For example, a law recently passed in California that would prevent natural gas from being installed in new construction homes. Do you support these types of laws?
This is definitely a complicated issue because we know that we have an immediate need to divest from fossil fuels, but we also don't have all of the technologies in place to get us from here to there. I am still exploring what the ramifications are of a natural gas ban. I think there are ways that we can harness natural gas that don't have to come from fracking as an industry. We can capture methane in all kinds of places. We do need to figure out what our alternative fuel portfolio is going to look like, though, what kind of feedstocks we can use in order to do that. The thing that I'm really sensitive to is that as we go to carbon fee and carbon pricing, as we look at low carbon fuel standards, as we implement the 100% renewable package for Washington State, that we're not, and similarly to the way we look at our tax code, that we're not piling up fees on people who can least afford to pay it and then pushing them further and further towards poverty. So I want to make sure that we mitigate communities that are hit the hardest, like Anacortes, when we make an energy transition and we're cognizant of those effects.
Okay, I don't support a natural gas ban, and that raises all kind of connotations. Also, in Seattle, they want to tax heating oil. The mayor, I forget her name, Jenkins, she wants to institute a 25-cent per gallon gas tax on natural gas, on heating oil. And that will really devastate seniors and people on lower incomes in some of those historic homes. They're not all low income, but anyways, so I don't want to tax heating oil out of, I don't want to raise taxes on heating oil, and I don't want to institute a natural gas ban. Thank you.
Great. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we just remember we're going to be voting soon, so.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask the candidates for Port Commission to come on up. Neither Bonnie nor Joe is running opposed, but I think it's good for them to hear from you and you to hear from them.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Bonnie Bowers. I'm running for Port Commissioner in District 4. I have 5 goals that I want to accomplish as a Port Commissioner. Number 1, to preserve our existing infrastructure. We're very lucky in Anacortes. We have a deep water port, fantastic marina, airport, and then property that the port owns and leases out. We need to preserve what we have. Renew economic growth. That means job development and predominantly family wage jobs. We need to innovate. I believe that electric ferries are heading our way, at least to Guaymas Island in the near future, and we need to keep current on marine technology, carbon fiber building of marine vessels, and to be competitive in the market. Last 2 things, environmental stewardship is important to me, and customer service, because we are good neighbors to each other. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joe Verdos. I'm running for re-election for Port District number 3. I'm proud of what the Port has done in the last 4 years I've been here. We've done a lot of things that are somewhat unsexy, but are actually part of the mundane part of a port. We're doing things like the cathode repairs in B-Dock and Curtis Wharf, the face of Curtis Wharf, the bulkhead in Pier 2, and all of these things cost millions of dollars. And those are the everyday things of the port. We also have the exciting things going on, like looking on the Northwest Basin redevelopment and purchasing industrial land for industrial business parks, which I think is a great way to go forward. Thank you.
All right, thanks for being here. We're going to have 3 questions for the Port Commissioner candidates. And Bonnie, we're going to start with you. So the first question is, according to the Port's mission statement, the first tenet is to foster economic development in the community. How do you plan to accomplish this?
So I talked a little bit about that, about being innovative. And the Port has done a fabulous job attracting new and innovative technology into our community, and they're trying to negotiate with other entities to come to Anacortes. We have great partnerships with some of our tenants who are on the cutting edge of marine design. Dakota Creek is constantly building new and innovative equipment. So I believe that that's will be the key to our economic development, is fostering those new technologies and attracting companies that have family wage jobs. Thank you.
Yeah, in the past 4 years, what I found the key to the Port and propelling the Port forward is basically have a vision and voice it to the staff. Well, we as commissioners have individual opinions on ways we think we should go. It takes a group of 5 of us to get things done. And the best thing is to have a vision, say, look, this is what we want to do. What we'd like to see is more development. We want family wage jobs. And then you step back and you let the staff do it. And then you judge what they've done and say, yeah, that's a good idea. No, that's a bad idea. But a lot of it is getting out of the way of the staff and watching what they do and let them perform at the level that they're able to do, because we have some very qualified people working there.
Thanks. Joe, we're going to start with you on this one. What do you believe is the most important issue that the Port of Anacortes will need to tackle within the next 4 years?
The most important issue is the coordination of all the inputs of the community into the Northwest Basin development. It's a complicated thing, which has a lot of moving parts. Roads need to be moved. There's to build and fund an event center. Developing what is probably going to be the character of Anacortes into the future, into foreseeable future after that. Bringing all to the groups together that have interest in it, for retail interests, recreational interests, and that too, and coordinate it all. That's going to be happening in the next 4 years, and it'll be exciting to watch, and there will be a lot of people involved in it.
I would agree with that. The coordination is going to be huge with our Northwest Basin redevelopment project. And along that line, I think the biggest challenge I see as working with community groups and community members is to take our world-class marina, and it really is a world-class marina, operates in the black. People come from all over the world to come to Anacortes, to Cap Sandy Marina. I think working with our constituents to maintain the small town feel of Anacortes at the marina, to not be the Port of Bellingham or the Port of Everett or God forbid, the Port of Seattle, but to keep it a small town marina, small town feel with a great corridor to our downtown businesses. And we can't do that alone. Joe's absolutely right. It will take our staff working hard, our commission working hard, and the community's input. Thanks.
We're actually doing really well on time, so you'll have 2 more questions after this for a total of 4. And so this next question is a 2-part question. If you need anything repeated, let me know. Bonnie, we'll start with you. Once the transit shed has been replaced as the event center, what are your thoughts on redevelopment for the Port's Guaymas Channel Trail Transit Shed and Quiet Cove properties? Sorry, that should be 3 commas. The Port's Channel Trail Transit Shed, Quiet Cove properties. And then what are your thoughts on when the Cap Sante North morages should be addressed for infrastructure improvements? It's kind of a long question.
Wow, that's more than 2 parts. Let's talk about the transit shed and Quiet Cove first. The Guaymas Channel, the Deepwater Port, is a jewel. It's a gem. and we need to be doing everything that we can to make sure our infrastructure there can support whatever size ship our channel will support, and whatever kind of industry, safe industry that we can bring in, we should be working on. Guaymas Channel Trail, I am a huge supporter of non-motorized transportation systems, and I think as a port, part of our mission is transportation systems, so that's an obvious support. The third part of your question, I think, had to do with A and B dock. Is that correct? Well, in the 2020 budget, which I just finished reading, I see where we have budgeted to rebuild A dock, and that should be happening over a 2-year period, and there's some electrical updates that are going to happen on B dock.
Could you repeat the question?
Once the transit shed has been replaced as an event center, what are your thoughts on redevelopment for the transit shed and Quiet Cove properties? Also, what are your thoughts on when the Cap Sante North moorages should be addressed for infrastructure improvements?
I've been a long supporter of trails. Back when I was a farmer, I sold at cost to Skagit County a good part of what they call the Centennial Trail. That was about 20 years ago, and I think the port has been a good steward and cooperative citizen with making the trails happen and working to place them, so that should continue forward. Eventually the transit shed will go to its highest and best purpose, and we've already had people who are interested in it, but we're not looking to replace it right now. It will be a gradual phase out as people prefer to go other places. It's not going to have event center, transit stage closed. As far as I know, that's not the plan at this point. It'll be organic. A, B, and B dock, yes. Wish that the Corps of Engineers would work faster, otherwise we'd have A dock done already.
And last question, Joe, you'll start with this one. How do you view your commissioner role, as well as the role of the Port of Anacortes staff, in fostering and maintaining good relationships with tenant lease customers and major business partners like Dakota Creek, the Refineries, Transpac, and Puget Sound Rope?
Every commissioner should have an open door and listen to people, be approachable, but there is a careful dance to be made between a commissioner and tenants of the port. You cannot replace the staff as the first point of contact for a tenant. Otherwise, you create friction within the organization. You undermine staff, and you create a not unoptimal, economic balance between the port and the tenant. That being said, you're mindful of tenants, and you're aware of what they want, and you speak to them whenever possible. But you got to be careful that you don't overstep your bounds.
When I was on the city staff, my boss used to say something that has stuck with me: be the first and best source of information. And that is true for the port staff as well. They should be the first and best source of information to the public. Where a commissioner might become involved is if the public isn't receiving the answers that they had asked for. And in that case, I think it's fairly simple. A commissioner can direct questions back to the director and go through the chain of command back to the staff member. But that accountability from all involved, I think, is really important. And a citizen, if they're not receiving the information that they need, Joe is absolutely right. Our door should always be open to them. And then again, the director's door is always open to us to resolve those situations.
That's everything. You're done. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We're going to have the candidates for school district come up. Two of the candidates are not here, so we'll be reading. In Bill Shaw's case, his wife's going to read his statement. In Marilyn's case, our moderator will. I'm going to go ahead and put the nameplates out as if those other candidates were there so you can see who the races are. Questions? So this is William Shaw's wife, Erica, who's going to read a statement from him.
You want me to go right now? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Thank you. My name's Erica McPhee Shaw, and I am speaking on behalf of William Shaw. And before I start his statement, I want to talk about why he is not here. Bill is currently out at sea at about 85 degrees north, 136 east, on a Russian ship, the Akademik Fyodorov. He's going to be out at sea until the first week of November. He will be away 7 weeks total. He's doing ocean and atmospheric measurements with American, German, Chinese, and many other researchers on a big, giant international Arctic expedition. He is a PhD ocean physicist, and he works for the U.S. Naval postgraduate school, but he works remotely here in Anacortes. So I will start now with his statement, speaking as if I am William Shaw, who is running for re-election. So, my work on the Anacortes School Board has given me a depth of experience in educational governance, and I am a problem solver who likes to get down to business. However, I also have a strong sense of empathy that allows me to view problems from the perspective of others and allows me to truly understand that decisions must always be made with a focus on what is best for students and families. I am proud of the district's strategic plan and look forward to working on social, emotional health, and equity programs to increase access to educational opportunities. Washington State has changed graduation requirements to allow more flexibility for career and technical education. This is a great opportunity for Anacortes to take advantage of our strengths. Budgets. The district has shown good financial stewardship by developing a balanced budget for the current school year in the wake of revenue reductions. However, moving forward, we should ensure alignment with the strategic plan, and that includes bargaining contract agreements to best support teachers and employees. However, we should not just accept the unfair deal we were handed after the McCleary decision. I believe we should also work closely with our state legislatures to get a better funding model for Anacortes. Thank you for your vote to re-elect William Shaw. Thank you.
Andrew read the next statement. And then real quickly, I forgot to do this with your group. Here's our timing people. Look how nice they are. They smile. And that's what your little cards will look like when you get to your time. Okay, so Andrew, you want to go ahead? And Erica, thank you so much for coming up.
All right. From Marilyn Hainsworth. I would like to apologize for not being able to attend the candidate forum today. I had the opportunity to spend 2 weeks with my daughter connecting with my mother's family in Argentina and could not turn it down. Thank you for engaging in the public process and being an informed voter. My family and I have lived in Anacortes for 20 years. My youngest child was born at Island Hospital, and both of my children have attended Anacortes schools K through 12. I work part-time as a software developer in town, and my husband has an orthopedic practice in Anacortes and Mount Vernon. I am running for a second term on the school board because I know the power of public education to change lives. During my last term, I have offered multiple valuable perspectives, including that of a parent with children who have attended 4 of the 7 schools at all grade levels, and that of a 14-year district volunteer who has spent time in many classrooms interacting with students and staff. In addition, my STEM background has been extremely useful as the district has integrated technology into our schools. Sandy, is that time? All right, that's it. Because there's like another page, so we're just going to cut that off. It's like halfway through. That would be an unfair advantage, so throw a flag.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mira Levy, and I'm running for school board in position 3. I want to help our school district do more for our children and families. Our current methodologies are not serving all of our students, and our teachers deserve more support. Parents are the front line of education in our community and deserve more open communication and transparency from the school district. We need engaged, active school board members that are always searching for ways to make our schools better for all of our children. I have 3 young children and will be a part of this community for many years to come. I'm a nurse practitioner, executive leader, small business owner, active PTA member, sports coach, Little League program coordinator, medical staff member at Island Hospital, and a member of the Anacortes Chamber of Commerce. As a school board member, I will advocate for our children and parents in every decision I make and work to create a culture that welcomes parent and community involvement in problem solving. Thank you for your support. I look forward to talking with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jennie Beltramini. I'm running for Anacortes School Board in position 4. I moved to Anacortes 13 years ago, and I love this small town and the community. My family is deeply rooted in the community. We're involved in youth sports, the dance center, and the schools. My 3 children attend the Anacortes schools. I have 1 in high school, 1 in elementary, and 1 in middle school, so all 3 levels, which is fun. My professional experience, my education, and my passion is in education. I've worked in education for 23 years. I was a classroom teacher and teacher leader for 19 years. 10 of those years was in the Anacortes School District. If I am elected to the school board, I will bring a unique perspective of an educator who has worked in the district. Currently, I work for a national nonprofit supporting schools, state boards of education, school districts all over the country, and so I also bring the perspective of a national view of education. I'm running for the school board because even though I work in districts all over the country, my heart and my passion is in the community where I live and where my children go to school, and I want to contribute here. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Matt Cutter, and I'm running for the Anacortes School Board. In March of this year, I was selected from among 10 strong candidates to an open seat on the school board. I was selected due to my experience in strategic planning, managing large budgets, and leading large and diverse groups of people. In the next few years, the school board will face many challenges. I believe that my demonstrated experience and skills will be an asset to the board and to the district while tackling these challenges. My wife, Elise, and I appreciate the benefits of our fantastic school system with 3 school-aged children. We have called Anacortes our home for nearly 20 years and truly cherish this community. I'm running because I believe in service and trying to make a difference. I am honored to serve you. I look forward to our discussion tonight and answering any questions that you have. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Connie Pancrazi, and I'm running for position 5 as well. I retired to Anacortes 3 years ago after over 30 years in education. And as a newcomer, I've worked for those last 3 years immersing myself in the community and seeking opportunities to be involved. I've dedicated myself to education. I've served as a teacher, an administrator, and in higher education as a teacher trainer. I work to enhance the lives of students, empower teachers, and improve educational systems. I'm hoping to continue this work on the Anacortes School Board so that all students have the opportunity to contribute, succeed, and thrive. I will look for ways to promote and improve current structures and increase collaboration between all stakeholders. I believe strongly that quality schools help drive economic development in communities. Therefore, we must find creative ways to attract, recruit, retain, and reward the best and the brightest for our teaching staff. We must improve quality, strive for excellence, and expand all opportunities for students. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's start. First question. We'll start with Miri and then work our way down. And if at any point you want me to read the question, just let me know, okay? All right, so first question. In the aftermath of the McCleary Act, as our district faces financial difficulties and decisions, what are your priorities for balancing the budget?
So obviously we need to look at our budget more. I would try and work on the legislature, go down to Olympia and work on that. However, I think in the meantime, we need to look at our budget really closely, look at it in detail, and figure out where we can find efficiencies. I think there are a lot of ways that we can find some cost-saving measures, keep the programs that we have, but have them cost a little bit less. And then I think we also need to focus on alternate sources of funding. There are a lot of grants out there, and I would like to see us hire a grant writer for the school district that can really focus on researching those opportunities, applying for them, and then getting some of those alternate sources of funding for us so that we can continue the programs that we want to continue.
Jennie?
Great, thank you. I think I have a two-pronged approach. One would be to look at the budget and think about, budgeting is an exercise in priority. So be getting very, very tight on priorities and then making decisions against those priorities. I think that the constraints on the budget can be seen as a challenge, but also as an opportunity to really get clear on what the district's priorities are. There's 5 pillars currently in the strategic plan. There's a lot of work that's happening under all of them. So I think taking a hard look at what is happening and where the priorities are. I'm always in favor of making decisions that are student-based. So most of the magic in the schools happens in the classroom, and so I think protecting the classroom and the students is a good thing. The other thing is that I don't think that the state quite has right the formula for what the state funds and what local taxpayers can choose to fund. And so I think continuing, as a school board member, continuing to work with legislature and our representatives to figure out how to make that balance work for our community.
Regarding the budget, I would look at 3 things. First, setting our priorities, which is what we did with this budgeting season, and we were pretty successful with it. We would first look at making sure that every decision that we make regarding the budget is not going to affect the classroom instruction of our students in the district. So that needs to be our first priority. Second thing I would do is looking at alternative sources of funding. It's a great community we live in with a lot of generous people that might be able to help us fund some of these programs. The third thing, and this is where I think a school board member can make a difference with lobbying our legislature, it's just, I hate to use the term unfair, but it is when students in Seattle or larger cities get funded at a higher level than our students. I think our students are just as important. Those 2 numbers are $2,500 for our students, $3,000 for a Seattle student. I don't think that's right, and I would be an advocate for our students to get that additional funding. Thank you.
I think we're pretty aligned on this as looking at priorities and making sure that student programming is safe and secure. And I also agree with my colleagues here regarding grant funding and looking for alternate sources of income. I also believe we need to continue to be transparent in our communication with the community, because we've got a community that very much supports education and supports the programs in the schools. And so I believe we need to make sure that they understand where we are on the budget, what we are able to spend certain monies on, and what we are not able to spend certain monies on. And then finally, I believe we need to work collaboratively with the other school districts in the county so that we are stronger and can go to the legislature as a combined group. Thank you.
All thoughtful answers, thank you. We'll start this one with Jennie. What is the school district's responsibility to make sure that graduating students are work ready? And do you think the school district is meeting this responsibility?
Great, so I think that when students graduate from Anacortes High School, they should have options to go into either college, the military, a career technical education field, and be able to make a living wage job. And so I think that an emphasis on any one of those options is not right. I think that there should be wide open option for kids so that they can go into whatever it is they're passionate about and what they want to pursue after high school. And yet still be able to make a living wage so that they can eventually probably support a family and maybe even afford to live in a community like Anacortes. So that means providing pathways for kids so that they can either go into career and technical education, so that there are options for them to do internships or do certification programs while they're in school. And if they want to go into a college track or a technical college track, that they are able to receive the credits that they need to get there.
We have a responsibility to make sure that our students can be successful citizens once they graduate from the Anacortes school system. What's that look like? It's not the same for every kid. There's a college pathway. We need to have the academic resources and athletic programs that can get children into colleges and top-tier colleges at that. But not every graduate is going to go to college, nor should they. So what do we need to do for them? We need to make sure that they have the technical training or that their ability to get a certain certificate so that they can get a good paying job as soon as they graduate and be successful once they graduate from the Anacortes school system. Thanks.
I believe that it is our responsibility in the school district to make sure that every child is prepared and that every child has the opportunity to be the very best that they can be. And one of the pillars that Anacortes School District is working on is equity, and that means that every child has an equal opportunity to succeed and to thrive when they leave the school district. And that may be college, but it also may be a career or technical or straight into the workforce. And we need to make sure that children have the opportunities to see what's available to them. And oftentimes we ask children to follow their passions, but I believe passions find children or students. And so if we give them opportunities and experiences, then hopefully they will be able to find something that they can continue for the rest of their lives.
I think it is our responsibility to make sure that we're producing good citizens of Anacortes. We want to make sure that our students, when they graduate, have really strong life skills. So I would really like to make sure that our students are learning to balance their checkbook and how to do the dishes and their laundry and really understand how to be appropriate people in the world, as well as be ready for whatever kind of career they're looking for. We want to make sure that our students have strong social emotional skills and are comfortable with appropriate behavior, and then that they're either ready for college or ready for other opportunities, and that they understand that there are so many diverse career pathways that they can choose, and that they've had lots of exposure to different types of opportunities during school. I would love to see more community internships and opportunities to utilize our community to teach our kids about all the different things that they can be when they graduate.
Great, thank you. Next questions with Matt. We'll start. What are your thoughts regarding the recent social media posts regarding the lack of school district support for kids with IEP or 504 plans, citing some students' inability to access educational opportunities like the top 3%?
I think that that's an issue of equity as well, when you do have people that have access to education that others don't. If you look at across the district, we've got roughly 300 students that are in special education with some with IEPs. How do you improve those? You can look at additional funding, you can look at additional manpower, but our teachers need to be familiar with what's in those IEPs so that they can instruct those children so that they can be successful. So I do think it is an issue. I don't think it's fixed, and I don't think we necessarily have a plan to fix it yet. Everybody that I've talked to when I bring up special education or IEPs, it's a problem, and we don't have a fix for it yet. I would, if elected, I would tackle that program and see what we can do for additional funding so that we can improve these IEPs and give a better education to our special education students.
And it's related to some social media posts regarding lack of school district support. So I guess you could just, if you're unfamiliar with that, we can just start with your idea regarding, or your thoughts regarding district support for IEPs or students with 504 plans, citing allegedly some students' inability to access educational opportunities like the top 3%.
Well, I would agree. I mean, this is part of an equity issue, and in the district there's about 12% of students that are currently on an IEP. And we need to make sure that there are opportunities for these students. We need to make certain that we have teachers that are versed in their IEPs, the needs of the students, and making sure that these teachers get the training that they need in order to meet the needs of all the students in the district. And I agree that's something where the district has work to be done, and I believe that it's something that the board will need to take a close look at over the next few years.
This is something that I hear from families a lot, that they've had difficulty accessing an IEP or getting the services that they need once they have one. So I definitely think that we need to really look closely at our special education program and see how we can overhaul that. Unfortunately, a lot of students have to wait until they have been failing for quite some time before they're able to qualify for an IEP. And that goes against our early intervention approach, where we want to try and manage things and fix things before they become a significant issue. And then also, once students do qualify, they don't always get the services that they need to then get back on track. Dyslexia support is an example of that in our school district. We don't have a strong program for students with dyslexia, and so they have to access services outside of the school district. So this is a program for sure that I would like to look at in terms of special education and make sure that we're serving as many children as possible and as early as possible in their education too. Thank you.
So in 2018, the class of 2018, students with disabilities, only 58% graduated on time, and 92% of students without disabilities graduated on time. So I think that shows that there is an access problem, and that we need to think about the services that students with disabilities are getting in the school district and how we can help change the narrative of that. I think that part of the solution is going to be that the state is helping. There's been some new dyslexia laws that have been passed that are requiring early screening, early intervention for students. So I think that that's something that the district will be working on, and that will help. But in my job as a math specialist, something that I work on all the time with teachers is how to do two things. One is to help students, how to catch them up and address unfinished learning, so students who are behind, but also how to help all students access grade level work. And so one of the things that we need to look at is professional learning for the educators that are serving these students, and thinking about giving them an opportunity to access the grade level work.
All right, let's see. Where was I? Connie, did you answer this last one first? Okay. So yeah, for Connie. New school technology does not ensure teacher understanding or student learning. What are your thoughts on what a district should have in place for new school technologies to be successful?
Well, I definitely believe that this is where we're moving, and that technology is the wave of the future, and I think that's something that the district has done a nice job of beginning, and I think that we need to make sure that we're very cognizant of what the technologies can do and how students can access them and what they can do with them. And I believe that we need to have some professional development for teachers, and making sure that teachers understand the technologies and what the technologies can do, and how that we can approach that with students, and making sure that all students have access to all of the technologies available.
So technology is a part of our life now, in every aspect of our life, and I think it's great that we're introducing our kids to that at a very early age in the school district. However, technology is complicated, and everybody has a different comfort level with it, and when we introduce new things, we need to make sure that we're really teaching it to our teachers, to our students, to our parents, and to our community, because everybody needs to learn how to use it together. So I think whenever we roll out something new, we need to make sure we're really providing that education and support, and that is really individual. I think we need to have approaches that allow for some people to get extra support and other people to get different types of support, because everybody accesses and uses technology differently and has a different comfort level. I think we also need to make sure that our technology is still allowing us to work collaboratively with each other, that we're not just sitting in front of a computer by ourselves, and that it's supporting our learning rather than doing the learning for us.
So I believe that technology can't replace good teaching, and it can't replace student collaboration and learning. I think that I agree that technology is part of our world, and students are going to have an edge above everybody else, or they'll be on par with everybody else if they learn to use technology and are able to even get certificates that are available to them in some of their career and tech ed classes. However, I really believe that technology just for the sake of technology is not what should happen, that technology should enhance learning. It should enhance the learning for all students and enhance the learning environment. And so careful use of how teachers use the technology, how they ask kids to use it, and the way to support that is through professional learning. I think that when new technology comes in and teachers are being asked to use it, they need professional learning to go along with it so that they can be most effective with reaching their students with the technology. I also think that there is an equity issue because some kids have technology at home and some don't, and so this is an opportunity to really provide equal access to all kids.
I think technology is essential to a modern education, and thanks to our voters and the tech levy, we are leaps and bounds above other districts, I believe, in the region. When you walk around schools, you walk around the middle school, each student has their own computer. My son, a sixth grader, has his own computer as a quick reference, as a way to look up his curriculum, things like that. So it really aids them, and it helps them out a lot, and it does for all the students. When you walk around the high school, we just had a tech refresh this summer. You look at the smart boards, all tools that students can use and teachers can use to learn. But that's what it is. It's a tool, and it needs to be used as that. We need to stay focused on learning together, and the teacher is the one that's going to connect with that student and get those lessons and those points across. So we need to remember that as well.
Great, thank you. Mary, we'll start with you on this one. What characteristics are you looking for in our next superintendent?
So for our next superintendent, I'm going to be looking for somebody with experience in education. Definitely somebody with experience working in a school district and somebody with experience in the classroom if possible. Then I'm going to be looking for somebody with some business experience, somebody who's managed people and understands how budgets work. And then I'm looking for somebody who really values open, transparent communication with the community and wants to work collaboratively with our community, with our parents, with our teachers, and with our students. Somebody who really enjoys problem solving in a group setting.
So I'm looking, same with Mary, somebody who has experience in education. I think it's essential that we look for somebody who has been a classroom teacher, a building principal, and has done district level administration and maybe even past superintendent experience so that they understand the whole range of experiences and staff in the district. I think also somebody who's committed to carrying forward the work of the strategic plan, and I think that there's been some really good work done around equity and social emotional learning, and so somebody who's committed to continuing that work is important. I think somebody who, Anacortes is a great school district. There's so many great things. So but I also think there's places that can be improved. And so somebody who's committed to celebrating all that's really good about the district, but also committed to being, looking really deeply at places where the district can improve and being clear about those as well and being ready to problem solve in those areas. And finally, I think somebody who is open to the community and wants to involve stakeholders, listen to students, families, and staff.
I'm looking for 4 things. A candidate for superintendent first would be strong leadership and communication skills. They need to be able to lead the organization and communicate their plan to the organization. Second, I'm looking for somebody with experience developing and managing large budgets. Third, somebody that's experienced with developing and updating and managing a curriculum for the school district. And then finally, I'm looking for a superintendent that can develop professional and personal relations with members of the board, as well as the staff and the teachers in the school district. Thank you.
I believe that we need someone that is a proven leader and has a deep understanding of the district, the current strategic plan, and the community. But somebody that's also a visionary and will look to the future to see where the district needs to go in the next few years. Someone who understands school finance models and is able to make tough decisions regarding spending. I believe this person needs to have teaching experience and will be someone that will stand shoulder to shoulder with the teachers, the students, the community, and get involved with them. I believe that we need someone that is a transparent communicator and listens to the needs of the community and the teachers and the school. And finally, somebody who is really a champion for students and teachers.
Great. Last question. I'll start with you, Jennie. What do you see as the board's role in ensuring that the published plans for the high school construction are completed as promised? And what other district-wide infrastructure needs do you see as a future priority?
So I think that the board is accountable to the community and the taxpayers regarding the high school. The community, including myself, we voted for the high school plan to happen and for a certain budget to take place and for a certain timeline to happen. And so I think that the board is accountable to that. I think transparent communication around what went well, any challenges that happened, and what, I think that one of the things, it obviously hasn't gone as planned. The high school is way over time, and so, and perhaps over budget as well. So I think that in terms of future looks at other facilities needs, other structural needs, the board should take a hard look at what went well and what didn't go well, and lessons learned, and how we can make sure that some of the things that happened with the high school that didn't go as planned don't happen again with future building and construction and facilities projects.
I agree that the board is accountable for the high school project. So when this is done, hopefully in the December timeframe and on budget, that we'll do a deep dive and find out what went right and what went wrong, and we'll be accountable to the voters to answer that. As far as the future for building and improvements, we'll need to develop a plan, an improvement plan in the December, maybe January timeframe to see where we need to go in the next 10 years for improvements to facilities, and to come up with a plan and budget for that. A third thing that I would look at is we've been in communication with the pool and the city on a piece of land that we've looked at putting a community center on, and I would look to work in collaboration with the pool and the city to maybe make more of a community center and not duplicate efforts with a pool and an athletic/community center on the school property. Thanks.
I'm in alignment with them that I believe the board has the ultimate responsibility for the high school, and that we do need to look closely at what went well and what needs to be improved. I know the board is looking at a long-term facilities plan that should be completed by the end of the year. And looking at what our needs will be for the district in the next 10 years. And also making sure that we are maintaining our current structures and taking good care of our current structures, so that we don't have unnecessary spending because of a lack of maintenance. I also believe that multi-use facilities are great and would work well for the community, so that we can share the responsibility amongst the community and the members.
I agree that the board is responsible for the project at the high school, and I think it is going to be amazing, but it has taken longer than anticipated. So absolutely we need to get that completed. In terms of projects moving forward, I would like to look at our building projects in terms of equity. I think there are some equitable things that we could change to make things equitable between our schools, and also to see what we could be doing for our students with disabilities. We need more ADA access at some of our buildings. I'd like to look at it from a safety perspective. I think some of our schools have quite open campuses, which is lovely, but not necessarily as safe as we could be. So making sure that we're really providing a safe space for our children where they go every day. And along with that, even some things just as safe sidewalks and access for strollers and things in and out of some of our schools.
That's it. Thank you for your thoughtful responses.
All right, City Council candidates, come on up.
Hi, everybody. My name is John Scribers. I'm running for City Council in Ward 1 in Anacortes. And I am running in a short answer because I want my children to be able to afford to live here. I have 2 children in public schools here. And I first started noticing the rise in not just the housing costs in Anacortes, but just the general cost of living operating small businesses here, with the number of employees that I've had dwindling down and down and down and down to actually who lives in Anacortes, to where I have less than half of my employees in our business with 20 people who actually live here in town. And I want to keep the Anacortes element for not for us, but I want to preserve the Anacortes element, and I want people who are able to afford to work here and live here.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here. My name is Ryan Walters. I'm really glad to see you all out there because it is really important who is your city council member, who is really responsible for a lot of the things that we like about Anacortes, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's public safety, whether it's housing opportunity. My philosophy as a city council member is not to sit back and vote yes or no on contracts that staff put before us, but to be active, to bring forward ideas on improving governance, on transparency, on financial planning, on how to manage that infrastructure and how to plan for the financing of that infrastructure, for building the kind of community that we want to see, that we want to continue to have here in Anacortes, with reasonable land use policies, with housing opportunities, with the recreational amenities like the Guaymas Channel Trail that we want, and the environmental policies that we need. I'm always open, I'm always willing to listen, I'm always ready to adapt, and that's what you can expect from me for the next 4 years.
Hello everyone, I'm Christine Cleland Mcgrath and I'm running for Ward 2 council position. I am a Anacortes High School graduate, such as Ryan, and I was lucky enough to grow up here 4th generation. I went away for school, art history at Whitman College, and then went on to do visual communications. I had the opportunity to come back and work with my family at our family business at Samilk Golf Course. That led me to getting involved with the Anacortes Arts Festival, which is one of the big economic drivers of our community. And then also got on Planning Commission as a result of really starting to learn about real estate and being a realtor. I think that land use is a very important thing, especially with public comment. And I want to take the knowledge I've gained from working on development regulations and move it forward to dealing with critical area ordinances, shoreline permits, infrastructure planning, affordable housing, and making sure that the public is informed and has a say in what we do. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dom Fleming, running for Ward 2 City Council. For those of you who don't know about me, I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I have an MBA from the University of Chicago School of Business focused on economics, finance, and business development. I have a 30-year career working for companies like the American Medical Association, Morgan Stanley, and Microsoft, where I managed multiple teams responsible for planning and budgeting for a $3.2 billion organization. Most recently, I've been focused on helping multiple smaller firms get their starts or do turnarounds. As an example, a company called Bridge Partners recruited me to be their CFO, and I took them from $13 million to $50 million over the course of 4 years. My run for City Council was originally at the suggestion of City Council members who believed that my specific experience and knowledge were needed in the City Council and could be helpful. I am hoping to help our planning, economic growth, and our housing situation. Thank you.
I'm Jeremy Carter. I'm running for City Council Ward 3. I've been in the military for 15 years now, currently still am. I'm a recruiter for the Washington Army National Guard. I'm a small business owner, been in Anacortes for 10 years now. I've dedicated my life to service through the military and before the military, community projects through Boy Scouts. I just love helping people, and I want to be the liaison for people living in Anacortes, helping them out any way that I can, and implementing your needs and wants and taking them to the city.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Moulton. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting us this evening, and thanks to everyone who came. I was appointed to Anacortes City Council Position 6 in April of this year. Mine is an at-large position, so I'll appear on the ballots of everyone within the city limits. And prior to serving, I was involved with the Anacortes Community Forest Lands Forest Advisory Board for several years. I served on the Anacortes Parks Foundation, and I've also been a member of the Anacortes Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Since becoming a council member, I am serving on the Public Works Committee, the Personnel Committee, and I also hope in this coming year, if I can, I'd really like to serve on the Planning Committee and the Parks Committee as well. Housing is my biggest priority, and I'm working on that with Housing, Affordability, and Community Services Committee, and there's a lot being done there. Thank you.
All right, y'all, you've had a chance to see how this goes. John, we're going to start with you. We're going to do at least 7 questions, and if time allows, we'll do maybe 1 or 2 more. Okay, first question, and if anybody needs a repeat at any point, just let us know. City council positions are nonpartisan. How will you work with business owners and community members who may not have the same political, environmental, or business viewpoint as yourself?
Yeah, I understand these are a nonpartisan race. I am, however, a libertarian, and so I end up arguing with Republicans and Democrats a lot, but the equal side of that coin is I end up working with Republicans and Democrats a lot, and it's really easy for me to find common ground with any individual or any business, especially coming from a small business perspective here in Anacortes. I've been there. I've been on their side. I understand what it's like to try and manage a payroll while keeping your business up. I understand what it's like to, when your business cuts in half, literally, once Oyster Run weekend is here. I understand waiting around for tulip season to start, just hoping you can, just 2 more weeks, and business picks back up. So I've been there, and I can relate. And it's easy for me, like I said, really easy for me to find relatable topics or agreeable topics with anybody.
I think that the answer to this question is really all about how well you can see the point of view of others. And I think it's incredibly important as a city council member to not rule out the point of view that other people bring, whether it's a member of the public standing at the podium or another city council member or the mayor sitting next to you. There's certainly going to be disagreements, and I've had my share of them up here. But I also have always offered respect to people, members of the audience, community members who disagree, who want to see something else. And I try to put myself in their shoes. I think that is easier when you have done lots of things and you talk to lots of people, and you are able to get people to you're able to draw out of people their motivations and why they feel the way that they do. And I think any candidate that you vote for, you should really prioritize that and make sure that you get that as a city council member.
I think that's a really good question. I feel that what's really important is that people come with an open mind and they figure out how to have common ground on the project or the task at hand, and to stay focused on what is being discussed. Business and environment don't have to be on opposite sides. I think that a lot of business really understands and values the environment, and vice versa. What we need to do is when I've dealt with things that have been of conflict, especially in planning commission meetings or working with family business, is that you play fair, you listen, you figure out a way to have compassion for the other side and understand where they're coming from, and then you discuss it thoroughly and you have to make a decision and move forward. And then once that decision is made, you realize that you let that sit and you continue on.
I believe partisanship doesn't enter into it. I wish we could be more like that at a federal level or a state level, but here in town we know each other. We see the impacts of the decisions we make on a daily basis in our own neighborhoods. So I think you can't be partisan. We all need housing, jobs, and critical public services, so we all have to serve each other. I'm open to hearing from all and want to have good discourse. However, when it comes to things like the city council declaring itself standing against discrimination, racism, or hate speech, I think there's no compromise there. We all have to be on the same side there. Thank you.
Traveling around the world for the last 15 years, getting to know people from all different types of backgrounds. This is one of the reasons, or one of the ways I feel that we grow as a community. Having people with different views, opening your mind to be able to see different possibilities. Being on the city council, I don't care what your background is. I don't care what political side you stand on. I treat everyone equally. Everyone has a fair voice, and there should be no difference whether you're on one side or the other of how you're being treated.
So I have a work neighbor who has very different views than I do, and politically especially. And we have, this is a work neighbor, and we have formed a strong friendship and a relationship based on what we share in common. And that is so important for us to remember. We have become friends, we celebrate each other's victories, we share in each other's troubles because we understand what it's like for the other person. So I think putting myself in another person's shoes, I'm good at that. I've done it since I was 15 years old. I've been in the service industry my whole life, whether retail, waiting tables, working at a nonprofit. I'm a good listener and I empathize with people, and I think that's really important. That's a gift we can all give to each other. We're all neighbors and we're all in this together, and that's the best way that we can move forward, is by understanding that and listening and trying to understand each other. Thank you.
Ryan, we'll start with you on this one. There is currently community fundraising and planning for a new public community center, Boys and Girls Club, a new aquatic center, and work in the senior center. Would you support the city of Anacortes working towards unification or partnering with these public facilities to reduce costs and find a better community solution for the needs?
I think the answer to that is always yes. I think the senior center is a little off the mark because we're replacing the roof, but we're really not changing anything else. The aquatic center, the pool, and the community center that is proposed, I think would be a great combination if we can make that work. If we can't make that work, we still need a community center, and we need to get the Boys and Girls Clubs out of the basement of City Hall. This is a seismically vulnerable building. If we had an earthquake right now, I suggest you run. I'm not kidding around. I think we have really ignored this issue for decades. And everybody likes this council chambers, but this is my chance to make this point really well. We need to replace City Hall. We have a lot of people in it, but really not that many. We could afford to replace City Hall for not very much money compared to some of the other facilities we need. We're not talking about a $90 million building. We're talking about making some investments to keep our city up and running in a disaster. We need to do that soon.
You know, I do support a collaborative effort between the pool, the senior center, and the community center if we can figure out how to make that work. I think the senior center has done an incredible job with their programming, and we could take a cue from that when we look at our community center. They have a ton of investment from various groups that come and participate, and I think that a community center and senior center that could work together so that we could have programming that has common interests and possibly shares across age ranges could be a real benefit to our kids and seniors alike. To get the pool involved, I mean, that's going to need some major discussion, but figuring out a way to have it under an umbrella is definitely worth discussion.
So with my background as a financial analyst and planner, I've looked at all of our budgets over the last 10 years and watched the progression of our taxes as they go up, and I'm extremely concerned about our capital replacement funding and how we're going to manage the city hall, the pool, senior center, roof on the library. There are all these things that need to be replaced. I'm a huge fan, therefore, of trying to do this in a unified way and hoping that if we build a campus and are using the same facilities or sharing some of those resources, we can cut costs substantially. I'm not sure I agree with Ryan that the city hall needs to be replaced first, though the whole earthquake thing does scare me. Thanks.
I do agree that getting the Boys and Girls Club out of here would be a good priority. Having children of my own, I wouldn't want them in here during an earthquake. But having a community center that could double as the Boys and Girls Club, having multiple different venues, being able to be in there to try to get down cut down some of the cost. But looking at that, trying to figure that into the budget is something that I agree with.
I'm a big fan of partnerships and collaboration amongst organizations and entities. I love the idea of having a campus where all of these things are connected, where you can park in one place and everyone can go to the different facilities. I think partnerships are really important, and I think it's important not to duplicate efforts. I don't know how this would all work of making it one thing. I think it would be really smart to be in constant communication and understand what we're all doing and work together. But I think it could get really muddy if we tried to have it all under one giant umbrella. So I think it's really important to keep expectations clear and keep the partnerships going. And I'd love to go forward with that.
Okay, in a short answer, yes, absolutely. I would fully support us being involved, the city being involved with the senior center and the construction of the new event center and whatnot. My only concern on that whole thing is long-term occurring cost to the taxpayer. And if I would be more eager to pursue down that path of saying of the yes answer, were there a plan in place to recover downline tax revenue that was going to cost for maintenance and upkeep on the new facilities? Thank you.
Christine, we'll start with you on this. The current lack of affordable housing availability for service workers and seniors with a range of incomes is made difficult in our tight housing market. What housing solutions do you support for those people whose incomes disqualify them for our current subsidized housing options?
Thank you for that question, and it's something that I've given a lot of thought to. As a real estate agent, I have to have really difficult conversations with people about what their opportunities are in our community, and it pains me. We're at 0.4% vacancy rate, which is essentially zero, right? And so that makes it extremely difficult. So my time working on the comprehensive plan and development regulations for the last 4 years, we've tried to put in place things such as multifamily, duplex, triplex, accessory dwelling units, and offering a toolbox for people who want to possibly do a 1 or 2 unit, things like that. We need to possibly look at Sharp's Corner. That's land that's been developed for a business park that hasn't been utilized. Possibly there's an opportunity to do a public-private partnership there where the city maintains the land. So I would like to see a lot of that, and I'm out of time.
We have plenty of developer interest in building housing, but we need more developer interest in building affordable housing. And so I'm a fan of increasing the incentives for developers within our development plan. We need to do this. This is not an optional thing. I also would like us to work as a city with land trusts and organizations like Habitat for Humanity that can create opportunities for people to buy houses at discounted rates because they're buying the house, not the underlying land. And that allows them to build equity over time. And thirdly, there are affordable housing equity funds that are becoming increasingly popular. And they're looking for places to spend money building affordable housing, and we have that opportunity to do that here as well.
Larger, expensive houses are going to continue to be built as long as there's money to be made there. There's no incentives for smaller houses to be built. So coming up with some kind of incentive plan for builders to develop smaller houses, more affordable houses, or multi-family houses. I am for building more affordable, smaller houses with multi-family, just not necessarily 5-story buildings.
So there are quite a few tools in our toolbox that we're using and that we're looking at. One of the things we're talking about is a multifamily tax exemption for developers that provide a certain percentage of housing that is affordable to people who make 80% of area median income or less. So that's one thing we're looking at in the housing, in our affordable housing strategic plan that we're currently in the process of updating. We are also investigating regulations on transient rentals, perhaps a transient occupancy tax or limits on nights that they can be rented out, because transient rentals take housing out of the long-term market, and so we've lost some there. We also agreed as a city, we passed a resolution to recapture some of our sales tax that we already send to Olympia that we can get back and use toward the development of affordable housing and more tools in addition. Thank you.
There's no one answer, no short answer here for lack of affordable housing in Anacortes. Like I had mentioned in my opening statement, operating small business in town, over half my employees commute from Burlington, Mount Vernon, some from Alger, and they can't afford to live here. If you go stand at Dakota Creek, outside of Dakota Creek at 3 o'clock, you will watch literally hundreds of cars leave town. They go home and their homes aren't here. I would really like to see, and this is the one spot where my opponent and I really differentiate, I would like to see much taller buildings in the downtown area to accommodate the influx of growth that we're having here. 6, 7 stories downtown would be great. Downtown, the instant the 5-story building, the codes were changed on that, there were people applying to build 5-story buildings. And I think if we eased up on the regulations downtown, it would definitely decrease the burden on the housing inventory.
Well, I think this is the question on everybody's minds right now, and it's because we actually have a real problem. 1/3 of families in Anacortes are housing cost burden, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on housing. I definitely want to see a whole community here in Anacortes where the people that work here are also able to live here, where the people that I grew up with who went away to college and didn't immediately buy anything or rent anything during a lean time are able to come back, and they're not today. We have to address housing affordability and accessibility on all fronts. We have new development regulations. We have this sales tax incentive program that we're working on. We have an affordable housing property tax incentive that we're working on. But we have to have reasonable regulations and reasonable incentives that will actually function, because we've had rules that would have allowed for higher height buildings in the downtown for many years and didn't end up with any development like that. I support the new development regulations that we've adopted, but I think we should be able to be responsive to community concerns and make sure that we integrate that with the character of our community.
Dom, we'll start with you on this one, and it's related to some of the discussion that you've already been having. How will you work to protect our downtown's economic vitality, merchant parking, cleanliness, safety, and a pleasant experience overall for visitors and community members with the increase in this low-income housing density and then homelessness that we're seeing in our downtown core?
Well, I think one of the things is to ensure that the low-income housing doesn't end up concentrating in one area and creating a kind of negative district. I don't think we should have separation between those who are affluent and those who are living below the poverty line to the degree that we're creating bad districts. I would like to see a corridor built between the development that's happening in the MJB district and downtown, so that we have a long area of kind of beautiful developed shops, hotels, restaurants, to kind of spread out what our business looks like.
Kind of address the homeless issue downtown. I don't necessarily agree that loitering or sitting around downtown in front of businesses so the people have to go around you. To get into the businesses, it should be allowed. But at the same time, also caring for them, helping them get to where they need to go, and addressing any issues that they might have. As for parking, there's not much parking on the street in front of the business that you're trying to go to, because there's only 3 parking spots per each little section. And one thing that people don't pay attention to is the time limit. I've seen cars parked there all day long when it's only a 2-hour time limit. helping enforce that, getting people moving along so that allowing more people to come in. There is more parking off the street behind the buildings, just people don't want to walk the block or two to be able to get there.
So, as I agree about parking, the mayor convened a task force this summer, and we had commissioned as a city a parking study about 3 years ago that determines that actually we do have enough parking. But people sometimes are reluctant to walk, and also we found that big offenders are merchants and their employees. So the city wrote a letter and hand-delivered it to every business downtown, and people took note, and the parking problem was lessened, and we heard far fewer complaints as the summer went on. So I think reminders to people are very helpful about parking. As for homelessness, I think we need mixed income developments. And I also think the Anacortes Housing Authority and the Family Center are doing a great deal for all of us in our community by providing services and housing for homeless people, and we'll continue to nurture and champion those partnerships.
I would honestly like to start this answer off with commending what has already happened in the downtown area in the 20 years that I've been here. It has been, the streets are nice, we have awesome bicycle lanes, it's safe for pedestrians again, and I think we're going in the right direction as far as that goes. I operate a business downtown, and I frequent the shops downtown, and I have never had a problem finding parking anywhere. If I have to walk a block to get to my place where I want to go, then I'm going to stop at another shop or see something else going on in town also. So the parking has never really been a big concern to me. And if we were to have a bigger apartment building built downtown, then I would definitely ask that the developer put a parking structure involved in the new constructions as well to accommodate the new residents downtown. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I don't think we need to protect downtown from new housing. I think housing is going to help downtown. I think it's going to invigorate downtown. I do think that we need more connections from downtown to South Commercial and connections to the marina. We've been talking about that for a decade, and we just haven't seen that happen yet. And it's just a matter of execution. We need to get that done. What will hurt downtown is parking. I do believe that we have a parking problem. I understand the suggestions, that there are actually enough spaces, but that's sort of irrelevant when you have people that are down there frustrated not being able to find parking. So we've got to do something, and I think it probably means starting with building surface parking, a parking lot that we can direct people to. I was just in Banff this summer. They have electronic signs that say there's 70 parking spots on this street, and directs people to those locations. We need to do something, and we need to do it pretty soon with respect to parking.
I think that our downtown corridor is doing pretty well. I think that as we see the new development regulations utilized and we see people move down and possibly have more live workspaces and condos above, we need to have a mixed income for our downtown corridor, but then also make sure that we have an appropriate amount of parking places for those people living downtown. We're in an area of the world of Washington State where people are still going to have cars. I think that the work that Chamber did and the city did about encouraging people who are working downtown to maybe push out and park off street, that's really important. We may need to do some reminders on cars. We also, just to keep it attractive, do trees, plants, artwork, and maintain and encourage those corridors to the port, and then also start working on the South Commercial plan for walking and cycling. Thank you.
Jeremy, this one's yours. Well, and everybody else's, but we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the Guaymas Channel Trail?
I like the idea of the trail. Having some place to get to the other different areas of the city without going out on the road is a great idea. Being able to bike everywhere. Having something there that we can use to lessen the cars on the road is a good idea. Going about it, though, is another story. running into the different issues, the landslides. I like the idea. I want to look more into depth about getting it done.
2 million people go to and from the Anacortes Ferry Landing every year. So we need South Commercial to be fixed, but we also need the Guaymas Channel Trail. And I think as a city, we can do better with our outreach and with our community engagement, and we're working on that, but we need to do more in that way. I think that getting it from where it is now to downtown is imperative for our citizens, mainly, our families, our people of all ages, however they'd like to travel without a motor and off the road. That's a huge priority for me. Also, I think that we also have an existing, in the meantime, while we're working on that, that will take a while, there is an existing corridor that you can take on West 2nd. There is a way to get from downtown to Anacortes Road and even to Skyline, only crossing Oaks Avenue. So there's a way to do that, but that's something that we need to let people know about too in the interim. Thank you.
I am all for the Guaymas Channel Trail. I am all for the Tommy Thompson Trail, and I would also like to see the Guaymas Channel connected to the Tommy Thompson and eventually all the way out to the casino. And I had actually talked to some people at the casino several years ago about the idea itself. And if we were to work with they had mentioned that the tribe could help with funding if we were to do something like that and advertise it as an attraction from them, a trail that goes all the way to the ferry from the casino. So I'm all for the Guaymas Channel Trail, 100%.
I strongly support the concept of a Guaymas Channel Trail and the connectivity with other trails and the waterfront esplanade that we want to see on Fidalgo Bay. But we've had a lot of problems in execution. And one of those seems to be a lack of recognition that time is a resource. It's not enough to plan to get it done in the next several decades. I'd like to see a plan for where it's going to go, how much it's going to cost, what it's going to look like, that can be vetted by the public so we can get that proper amount of input and really fashion a trail that is really going to function and work with the hillside, around the wetland, not through it, those kinds of things. And then I want to hire a project manager and get it done and hold those people accountable for getting it done. That's how you do projects. We just haven't been treating it like that so far. Thank you.
I think the Guaymas Channel Trail needs to be a huge priority for council and the city moving forward. It's an opportunity for level exercise because of the grade as being old train tracks. It's an opportunity to connect to the waterfront for a lot of community members who don't live on the waterfront. It's great for children and various other ages to be able to exercise and feel like they're part of the community and engage. So it needs to be complete, but we also need to make sure that we use best available science so that we are pay attention to the environmentally critical areas and figure out solutions to maintain the integrity of them and possibly go around them. So that does mean having a master plan, getting it out in front of the public in a responsible manner, and then getting the project completed.
I totally agree with Christine here. I'm a big supporter. I think the Guaymas or the trail will add to the town as a pedestrian and bike-friendly town that we are, both for tourists and for locals. I have heard from a number of people that they are concerned about the wetlands or estuaries there, and that we have to be careful about critical areas. And we have to take into account the people who live right there and their opinions. So I'm a big supporter. I'd like to have us be very careful about how we lay it out.
Carolyn, we'll start with you on this one. Anacortes' infrastructure is aging and requires some major work. Many such projects are being financed by homeowners by double-digit increases to their utility bills year after year. In your opinion, how should the financing of these projects be structured, paid for, and why?
So I don't know about the double-digit increases to utility bills. I don't know about that. So what we need to do is we need to plan and budget very wisely. We're looking at a $20+ million project to improve our combined sewage outflow for large rain events like the one we had 2 years ago. And that's going to cost a lot of money. So some of that's related to bonding. And how do we prioritize and budget accordingly so that we have this infrastructure in place in time, so we can build it as we're affording it rather than going into debt and raising rates so much. But the fact is that some of our rates have not been raised in some years, and so we need to make sure those are concurrent with the costs also.
As she had mentioned towards the end of her statement, our utility rates have not increased fast enough over time, and we are at basically playing catch up right now. We've been paying far too less for utilities, and we're playing catch up right now. And I would have to imagine that the budget is catching up as well. My concern with this about how we fund anything in the city is that we have to think about very critically any time we levy another tax or think about raising another tax. The slightest increase in anybody's taxes in our town right now is the difference between paying the new increase in tax versus someone playing volleyball this year, or paying a new increase in tax versus your part of your entertainment budget on the year. And families are getting, with each new tax and each new fee increase, families will be slowly priced out of Anacortes.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Anacortes' infrastructure is aging and requires some major work. Many such projects are being financed by homeowners by double-digit increases to their utility bill year after year. In your opinion, how should the financing of these projects be structured or paid for, and why?
So as an initial matter, I think that we ought to require, in all cases, new development to pay for itself. State law would not allow us, and nor would it be fair, to charge it for existing deficiencies, but any new development that creates new effects should pay for those effects. But then we need careful financial planning for everything else. When we talk about infrastructure, we're talking about roads, water, sewer, stormwater, and to some extent, garbage service. There's a lot going on. And when I came into office, we had a $60 million deficit in deferred maintenance on roads. 6 times our annual general fund budget. I mean, it's tremendous what we have done in the last 6 years by starting to spend money on it, because we weren't before. We had a 3 million gallon water tank that was about to collapse in on itself up on Whistle Lake Road. We've now replaced it. I assume we are all thankful that we've done so. But it also cost a lot of money, and prior to that we were charging only $5 a month for water. So the planning, it's all in the planning.
So infrastructure includes not only water, sewer, garbage, and things like that, but it also includes our emergency services, right? So we need to make sure that we catalog all of our various infrastructure and services, and then we need to have a master plan for what needs to be maintained and what's going to require capital improvements, one of which is the combined sewer outflow that we're starting to discuss, right? So I think it's a matter of having accountability, working with staff and the public. We have to be really cognizant of the fact that every time we have an increase, it's not just families, but it's also retirees on fixed incomes. That little increments make a huge difference for people's budgets. So it's balancing those two things.
Yeah, I was thinking about this yesterday about how our the tax assessments that we have are buried in mortgages for many people, and then if you own your house, you start seeing that in real terms. And for a lot of people, that fee is turning into a $500, $600, or $700 a month expense. And for people on a fixed income, that's super hard. We've seen our budgets recently go up from $55 million to $70 million in the course of just a handful of years. And a lot of that is this infrastructure catch-up that we're doing. And this comes from a couple things, and one of those is poor planning. We have not done a great job of getting ahead and seeing what the needs are in the future, specifically around the water infrastructure. But additionally, I think of the fire department ladder truck as an example. It's been in service 20 years and it needs to be replaced. We're talking about building 5-story buildings and we don't have a ladder truck that has a long lifespan left to it. Part of that's because that ladder truck came from Tesoro and then the city didn't create a capital replacement fund for it. So yeah, I'm out of time. Thank you. Better planning.
I agree with Ryan that a lot of it is in the planning. I personally haven't seen my payments go up that much, but knowing that a lot of infrastructure has to get replaced, some costs will go up, and making sure that people understand why it's going up and where that funding is going can help alleviate some of that stress of the unknown. But it is all in the planning and making sure that we are spending our funds the right place at the right time.
Couple more questions. We're making good time. And John, we're going to start with you on this. To be able to afford Anacortes housing, you have to have a good job. How can we attract more of these good paying jobs?
I honestly feel like we have, and I'm saying we have enough, but we have good paying jobs here in Anacortes right now, and honestly supporting our existing industries, I feel like would be the best way to do that. Making, easing zoning restrictions for constructions of commercial or industrial buildings and operations would be another way we could do that too, and incentivize people who want to employ local people with good jobs. If there's any incentives available or anything we can step out of the way as a city to ease up on any of their building costs, construction costs, business operating costs. If we can ease any of that stuff up and make ourselves more attractive to some of the people like in the solar industry and some of the light manufacturing industry, and more people in the marine or more marine companies, I think there's several things we could do. Thank you.
In terms of attracting good paying jobs, one of the primary reasons that we are exploring and now implementing, taking orders right now for our new fiber service is because it will support good paying jobs. It will support new industry coming here. It will support people that want to work from home. We're also working hard to attract and keep more traditional employers, like we have a new marine battery company in town, if we can keep them. We're also trying to make it easier, and I think that we've had some success at this, through the new development regulations, so that if a new employer comes to town, they can be permitted. They can build the building that they want and build it in the place that we want to see it without jumping through an extraordinary number of hoops. So we're doing all of these things, but there's a lot more that we can do by making it easier to get a building permit, faster, easier to get a fire marshal inspection. There are a lot of things like that we can continue to do to grease the skids, and I want to see us keep moving in that direction.
So we need clear, concise regulations that are predictable. We need to have business applications and the necessary fire marshal, et cetera, be swift and responsive in a timely manner, because it's really expensive to try to start a business, rent a space, and have to wait for 30, 40 days to get someone out there. We really should utilize our light manufacturing to better. That may mean that we need to have our development coordinator have a better handle of what's available, that land on hand, so when people come or businesses inquire that it's available. The other thing we have to do is increase housing. Businesses can't come here if people can't afford to live here. So that is the other element that we as a city can help alleviate those challenges.
I act as a fractional CFO and COO to companies in Seattle, and every one of those companies, and there are probably 8 or 10 in the past 3 years, is looking to develop additional workspace and hire additional workers. And they can't in Seattle because there's no one available. Anyone they hire, they have to steal from another company. We have a great situation here where we can import some of those companies. service companies, IT companies that are looking for a ready workforce, or a friendly town that has commercial space available, that has municipal broadband. We have the opportunity to invite these companies in. I think we should have a specific marketing campaign to look for those companies to come in and hire our employees. I additionally have mentioned that I would like Western Washington to have an extension campus here to teach IT and business-related skills. And I agree with Christine. We need affordable housing so people have a place to live. Thank you.
So as a recruiter for the military, I'm in high schools a lot, and I tend to ask kids what they want to do when they graduate. Most of the time I hear that they want to go to college. But what I don't hear very often is people wanting to go into trades. So I want to draw attention to trades. Local 26 down in Burlington, a lot of our trade locals have a shortage of people. It's not being talked about a lot in schools. Those are jobs that are already in place that have livable wages that people are not taking advantage of.
I agree with Jeremy. I've heard that from friends in construction industries, different contractors, that the jobs are there, but they're not being filled. Also, I believe that the Economic Development Association of Skagit County is doing great work networking around the country with different industries, and they just came back from a trip to Norway, talking to business leaders there who've come and done tours here in Anacortes too. I think with our quality of life here, our schools, our parks, our natural beauty, our great downtown, I mean, the list of the great aspects of our town is very long. And I also agree with Christine, our biggest issue is housing. It's absolutely true that we have 0.4% vacancy in Skagit County. That means if we had 10,000 homes in this town right now, 40 would be vacant. So we need housing at all levels. And when we say affordable, that's like a whole subject we could talk for ages about, but we need housing for the people who make 80 to 120% of area median income, because that's the middle class. That's the heart and soul of this town.
All right, last question. Ryan, we'll start with you. Do you have a recommendation on developing the MJB property from 17th to 22nd?
We have adopted development regulations that specify what can go there. And if asked, I would say Trader Joe's. I think that, you know, when they come to develop, they're probably going to ask City Council for a development agreement, which is going to be, if they do that, if they take that approach, because that's one of many, that would be your opportunity to weigh in and participate in that discussion about that. I do think that, you know, as we've discussed, we need more housing. Housing is probably a component. I think we could use a conference center. I think we could attract tourists. I think that we can use more hotel space. I think that our town needs a lot of things. I'm not sure all of those things are appropriate for the MJB space. I do want to see more waterfront connections. I want to see development of the waterfront esplanade. I want to see whatever goes in there to be an attractive amenity for the city, not just a windfall for the developers.
So hopefully MJB, after our development regulations, when working with them and the community about what they would like to see on that property, hopefully we do see something, some proposal come forward for public comment. It's been a process that they've thought about doing for years, so I don't hold my breath, but maybe this will be the time it happens. If something is built, I think it's important that we maintain view corridors for the general public as they drive down or walk along the trail. I think that there needs to be public gathering space so that we as citizens can feel that we have access to the downtown, to the waterfront, whether it be parks, artwork, etc. I think a conference center is something that we would really like to see. And then possibly some kind of, they've done some master plans, but to see something about retirement, senior center living spaces there too, because we have to provide for a variety of ages. Oh, anyway, and then, you know, the other last thing is we want to make sure that we don't gut the retail space of our downtown, right? So we need to have a balance. Thanks.
I would love to see, I am really excited to see the MJB district develop, and I think it can add a lot to our town. It's been kind of it's a big blank hole in the town for a while. I would love to see us have hotels and housing there and restaurants and shops with a preference for as much of it as possible being locally owned, so we create more jobs and more better opportunities for people here. I would love to see some affordable housing. I would like to increase our incentives so we can get some there. Again, I don't want all of the affluence concentrated in one area. And the more we develop housing over in that area, the less we may need to do so. I'm standing against the 5-story buildings that are going up in the R4 district. I think those are neighborhoods that should remain Anacortes neighborhoods. And I think the 5 stories will be a blight. Thanks.
I like the idea of some affordable housing going in there, also some businesses. So far, several people that I have talked to, everyone has been for Trader Joe's. Everyone thinks that's a great idea, but just having a big, open, empty space for anyone going back there is kind of an eyesore, but having just some new businesses going in there along with some housing.
I think it's great that the development regulations have been adopted, so now we have clarity in what is allowed there. And so I think that we will be seeing proposals come forward very soon from MJB. I also like the idea of housing and retail as long as it doesn't, we have such a vibrant downtown, and the more connections that we have between the marina and the waterfront and downtown, that's all for the best. If we can have easy connections where you don't have to drive and worry about parking at each place, that would be great. The thing with affordable housing is it needs to pencil out to happen also. So I keep coming back to this, but impact fee discounts and general facilities charge fee waivers are some things that are available in the toolbox for affordable housing. So developers aren't going to develop affordable housing unless it pencils out for them. So that's something that we need to work on. That's a big job, but I believe that we're up for doing it. Thank you.
I'm pretty much with what everybody else is. I don't want to just be a parrot up here, but I wasn't invited to the Trader Joe's conversation, and I'm not opposed to a Trader Joe's in there either. But I honestly would like to see something that does draw our people down, our community down to the water. I would like to see something that it's an awesome area. Or it could be an awesome area, but it's just I would really like to see something a marine center, another excuse me. Something to that effect. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you all so much. Great job.
All right. First of all, thank you once again to all of our candidates. And don't forget, your ballots are coming tomorrow. Thank you, Miss Amanda Hubig, Mr. Andrew Miller, Sandy Swartzos, Christy Lyman. Oh, there's still cookies. Pam Allen and Alan Workman. And Pam's been on the committee with me helping to write questions, and I think she does a really good job getting those out. And Dan Mall, great running. All right, talk to you later.